Hassam, is there any part of the world in which you cannot find Muslims?
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I think we live at the time.
Vatican City, maybe?
Sorry?
Vatican City?
Yeah, I mean, you have visitors going in there as well. And Vatican City has a history of Muslim presence even in the past. So even in the present, if they're not really there. But that being said, I think it is quite a challenge to find a place in the world today where Muslims have not reached, and where at least the impact of the Muslim presence, and for the vast majority of the cases, it's been a very positive impact for those societies where that impact has not been felt.
Mm-hmm. Do we find Muslims in the very far north and the far south?
Everywhere, and for me, this is sort of it has been a personal sort of research project, and I kind of think of it as like know your ummah, right? And we often speak of this this concept of the global Muslim community, the ummah, but within that, we usually only think of particular cultures and particular regions of the world when it really is a global ummah. There's prominent and long-standing Muslim communities in Canada, certainly, in Argentina, in parts of Latin America, in the Pacific Islands, in places like Hawaii and Fiji, and the one Muslim, one of my favorite examples, in Samoa, who also runs the mosque and is the imam, and it's just him, right? But that's how you lay the foundation for a community in places like New Zealand and Japan. And when I began my research on this project, the place I actually started was Antarctica. The reason being because knowing that people don't live there, people don't settle there permanently, I just wanted to see what is there. Not just in the present, by the way, because we know certainly that there's Muslim researchers who go there to do research and things of that sort, but even in the past, and I'm still doing some digging, there's some interesting references actually to, in very classical Muslim sources about a land of darkness far in the south if you cross the sea. You will get there. And Piri Reis is one of the famous Ottoman cartographers, and he made a very famous map very early on in the 1500s. And this is when Columbus had arrived in 1492, and he made this map in the early 1500s, and it actually shows remarkably accurately the coastline of South America, or what is Brazil. There's a huge landmass at the bottom of the map, which has created a conversation and some speculation about was Antarctica actually known? Had it been reached by Muslims or others, such that it would show up on a map? Or is that just a distortion of South America? So in that sense, starting from there and then working backwards, I started with the most extreme case and then worked backwards, and there truly are very few places left in the world where Muslims have not reached. So, and if we wanted to go into like particular examples, we would find not just that, Muslims went there for vacation like last year, but they've often been there, often for like over a century, and making incredible contributions to those societies that they have made their home.
I noticed that Muslims from the Ottoman Empire were coming to South America, right?
Yes, certainly, especially to Argentina, Brazil as well to some extent, in Mexico. So in that entire region, you have a strong legacy from in the late 19th century of Ottoman sort of Muslims, and particularly Lebanese and Syrians among them, coming and settling in Argentina. And in Latin America, some very prominent politicians and community leaders and people who have excelled in different fields within those societies have been of Arab and Muslim background. And the same is the case in the Caribbean, where there's, of course, the Afro-Islamic connection as well, dating back to the transatlantic slave trade and the sort of resiliency of the black Muslims who were enslaved and brought to the West. I believe the Minister of Education currently in Fiji is a Muslim. So, anywhere you go, you will find many examples of these contributions happening.
What is your most interesting story? Which community have you found that, kind of piques your interest or any sort of interesting story of a remote Muslim community in the world?
There's almost too many to pick.
Okay.
There are a lot to choose from. I do like the one particular incident of which is a recent story of the one of the traditional Kazan Qur'ans, one of the first printed Qur'ans in the world centuries ago. A copy and a replica of that being sent to Antarctica to be kept in the Russian research base there, as well as the Azan made in Antarctica. I also really like examples in Japan. And many other places that I could probably go into, but I'll return to the Samoan example, and that's the American Samoa, and I think it's just fascinating. And it's also interesting. So here's when we start to see why this kind of information is important for the Muslim community and conscientious people beyond sort of just the interesting aspect of it, but in American Samoa, there's a Muslim ban, right? So there's an actual ban on Muslims, and they've banned, and Fiji is one of their closest neighbors, and at one point they banned Muslims from Fiji from coming in, and then Fiji had to work to get itself removed from that list. So what can we do to change that in the American Samoa, right? And what can Canadian Muslims or Argentinian Muslims do to help Muslims in, different parts of the world and vice versa? Maybe they can help us with some aspect of our challenges. So this is why the interconnectivity of the Muslim Ummah is so important.
Hassam, thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe, and please donate to support our work at QuranSpeaks.com.